Chapter 3, Lesson 1, Learning to be a Better Learner. Knowing the self is not enough since who you are. It's partly made up of your choices. You must also have the ability to choose, especially to be a better you. They have a following question. So, number 1, do you agree with the results of your mind? Why or why not? Yes, because being aware of how I think about it helps me to be more mindful. So number 2, make a list of your top 5 tips, secrets for studying based on your personal experience and preferences. My top 5 tips and secrets for studying are: number 1, stay motivated with my family, especially to God. Number 2, second, prepare myself for the incoming task or something. 3. Of course, I need to study hard because this is the way I can improve my learning skills. 4. I always think positive and look up forward to strive all of my goals. And number 5, review and revise. Number 3, do your my result consistent with your personal top 5 tips, secrets for studying? Answer: yes, because I apply all of those tips in studying and it helps me to improve my skills. So we have 5 other skills that can help us in exercising our metacognition. Number 1, knowing your limits. 2, modifying your approach. 3, scheming. 4, rehearsing. 5, self-test.
All of us want to bring the best version of ourselves. And in order to that, we must first understand ourselves. One way to understand ourselves is to know our capabilities and weaknesses so that we will know which part of us that needs improvement. In improving ourselves, we must possess a better studying techniques that will enable us to achieve those improvements that we desire in a short period of time only. We people in the present are called Homo sapiens, is also known as wise man. We have the ability to think what we are thinking, and it's called metacognition. This metacognition helps us to further analyze the thing in our minds, and also it helps us to have a better response and judgment in a certain context. So we just know how metacognition works, its aspect and metacognition skills, because this will give us an idea on how to assess our thinking.
Good day everyone, I'm John Francisco Beso and I will be discussing about the lesson 2, which is the do not dream, make it happen. So Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield is an American author, motivational speaker, corporate trainer, and entrepreneur. He has authored 7 books listed in the Guinness Book of World Record. The books written by Jack were named Chicken Soup for the Soul series, The Success Principles, How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be, The Power of Focus, The Aladdin Factor, Dare to Win, and You've Got to Read This Book, and lastly, The Key to Living the Law of Attraction. Aside from writing books, Canfield also wrote quotes that got famous. One of the famous quotes he wrote was about success, saying, "By taking the time to stop and appreciate who you are and what you achieve and perhaps learn through a few mistakes, stumbles and losses, you actually can enhance everything about you." Self-acknowledgement and appreciation are what gives you the insights and awareness to move forwards towards higher goals and accomplishment. So Albert E. Bundara self-efficacy. Efficacy. Self-efficacy theory. What is self-efficacy theory? The term self-efficacy was first coined by psychologist Albert Bandura way back 1977, a Canadian-American psychologist and a professor at Stanford University. He originally proposed the concept in his own words, as a personal judgment of how well one can execute the courses of action required to deal with prospective situation. Self-efficacy is a person's particular set of beliefs that determine how well one can execute of a plan of an action in prospective situation. To put it more simple terms, self-efficacy is a person's belief in their ability to succeed in their particular situation. So how does self-efficacy develop? Number 1. Mastery experiences or performance outcome. One of the best proven ways to learn a new skill to improve one's performance in a given activity by practicing. So next up would be Albert E. Bundara's self-efficacy. The concept of self-efficacy was introduced by Albert E. Bundara in the article entitled Self-Efficacy Toward a Unifying Theory of Behavioral Change, and this was published in Psychological Review in 1977. During the 1960s, Albert Bundara conducted a series of experiments on observational learning, collectively known as the Bobo doll experiments. So what is the Bobo doll experiment? The Bobo doll experiment is the collective name for a series of experiments performed by psychologist Albert Bundara to test his social learning theory. Between 1961 and 1963, he studied the behavior of children after they watch an adult model act aggressively towards a Bobo doll. So number 2 is the vicarious experiences or the social role models. Seeing people similar to oneself succeed by sustained effort raises observers' beliefs that they too possess the capabilities to master comparable activities to succeed. And number 3, social persuasion. Receiving positive verbal feedbacks while undertaking a complex task persuades a person to believe that they have the skill and capabilities to succeed. And number 4, emotional and psychological states. For example, if you are struggling with depression or anxiety, one might find it harder to have a healthy level of well-being. Is it possible to build self-efficiency while suffering from some of these struggles? Of course not. But boosting your self-efficacy is much easier task when one is feeling healthy and well. Carol Dweck studies human motivation. She spends her days diving into why people succeed or don't, and what's within our control to foster success. Her theory of the two mindsets and the difference they make in outcome is incredibly powerful. As she describes it, my work bridges development psychology, social psychology, and personal psychology, and examines the self-conceptions or mindsets people use to structure the self and guide their behavior. My research looks at the origins of these mindsets, their role in motivation and self-regulation, and their impact on achievement and interpersonal processes. Dweck's work shows the power of our most basic beliefs. Whether conscious or subconscious, they strongly affect what we want and whether we succeed in getting it. Much of what we think we understand of our personality comes from our mindset. This both propels us and prevents us from fulfilling our potential. Thank you and God bless.
So the next theory we'll be tackling about is Edwin Locke's goal setting theory. But first, who is Edwin Locke? Edwin A. Locke is internationally known for his research on goal setting. He was born on January 5, 1938. He is a Dean's Professor of Leadership and Motivation at the Robert H. Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland, College Park. He received his BA from Harvard in 1960 and his PhD in Industrial Psychology from Cornell University in 1964. He is also a writer, author/editor of numerous notes, articles, journals, and books. His work has been supported by many research grants, and he has served as consultant to research firms and private businesses. So, moving on to the goal setting theory. The goal setting theory was first studied by Dr. Locke in the middle of 1960s. He continued to do more studies in relation to his theory. In 1996, he published another article entitled Motivation Through Conscious Goal Setting. The article is about his 30 years of research findings on the relationship between conscious performance goals and performance on his work tasks. The basic contents of goal setting theory are summarized in terms of 14 categories of findings discussed in the article. And Edwin Locke found that individuals who set specific difficult goals perform better than those who set general easy goals. So Locke proposed 5 basic principles of goal setting. That's clarity, challenge, commitment, feedback, and task complexity. Goal setting is something that many of us recognize as a vital part of achieving success. And by understanding goal setting theory, you can also apply Locke's principles to your goals. His research, confirms that the usefulness of smart goal setting. And Locke's theory continues to influence the way that we measure our performance today. To use this tool, set clear, challenging goals and commit yourself to achieving them. And be sure to provide feedback to others on their performance towards achieving their goals, and reflect on your own as well. Also, consider the complexity of the task and break your goals down into smaller chunks where it is appropriate. So if you follow these simple rules, your goal setting will be much more successful and your overall performance will improve.
So, hi guys, my name is Jarnal Lacerna and I'm here to you to report the lesson 3, which is less stress and care more. The objective of this lesson is that I will be able to explain the effects of the stress to one's health and examine the cultural dimension of stress and coping and design a self-care plan. So, introduction and activity. Self-stress aware assessment is to handle the life stress in identity sources of life stress. And analysis says that how do you feel while you were doing checklist? And is that the result to represent for the stress level? How do you feed the result? And abstraction, stress and human response. And Hans style defines stress as the body naturalistic response to any demand. So during both stress and distress, the body undergoes virtual same and spec responses to the vegetative, positive, and negative sodi. So the general stress syndrome, three components: the alarm stage, and the stage of resistance, and the exhausting stage. So yeah. So now for before else is that the stress is that we have hypotenuse and celestial context and amygdala. And there are techniques to counter chronic stress. Number one is that revelation response. Dr. Albertson, director, interpreters of Ben-Sahar Institutes to mind-blowing mid-care. Yeah, the cultural dimension stress of coping. And stress and coping research constitutes one of the most intensive shaded across health, social, and psychological research because of its imperfection for understanding human well-being of adoption. And then self-care therapy. So this is it. This is one of the most important things to remember, the self-care therapy. A positive way to counter stress is self-care therapy. Is what is this? So Nancy Appreciation 2018, stop and let yourself this I know this is hard, but I know you can counter and you can move on to yourself, and it can help to acknowledge yourself and for what you are fearing, or find someone who will be accept yourself and maintain your normal routine as much as possible. Indeed, allow plenty of time for a task and take good care of yourself. Remember to and get enough sleep, get enough eat healthy foods, take care of yourself, and love yourself in short. Self-compassion therapy. This is one another of therapy. Self-compassion is another way to encounter stress. Self-compassion entails being warm and understanding toward ourselves when we were suffer, fail, and down. And the another phrase is self-compassion phrases. And this phrases captures the essence of three components of self-compassion. The first phrase is to help the open the thing of emotional pain to encounter the self-loss and self-compassion and emotional well-being. One of the most consistent findings in research is that greater self-compassion is linked less and depression. And then the another self-compassion, which is motivation and health. And research supports the idea that self-compassion enhances motivations rather in self-indulgence. For instance, well, self-compassion is negatively related to perfectionism. So self-compassion and versus self-esteem. Well, research says that self-esteem and self-compassion is more moderately associated with trial levels with self-esteem as one would expect given and both represented positive and opportunism. So another self-compassionate is this letter, that which is there are three steps, which is kindly deservance. Next is that think of an imaginary friend who is unconditionally accepting, and yeah, you can go on yourself. Finally, we have a letter to yourself that is very perspective. And then the last one is less care, less stress, and care more. We should be control the stress that controls us every day. Otherwise, when we were overwhelmed by stress, it can be detrimental to our health. Self-care and self-compassion are two ways to possibly confront stress. We should love and care for ourselves and more each daily. So guys, remember that, and think wisely. You prioritize yourself, give yourself a time to heal, time to unwind, give yourself the ability to stress free. And applicant and assessment. Reaction paper of this is that people nowadays have encountered a lot of emotional depressions. So please, guys, I hope you may encounter this, and I know you may encounter this, but love yourself, give yourself time, and I know you can do it. Move on, and when you do it, I know you can. And pray God, and always think about God. And that's all for today. Thank you, everyone, and God bless.